Hi, this is Sixtine Crutchfield. I hope you're well since last month. Today we've got some very, very exciting speakers with us. We've got Erinrose Sullivan, we've got Sorenson, and we've got Devy. But before I go into the gist of things, I'd like to give you some maintenance. So you can ask questions, which is down there in the bottom of your screen. You just go into either raise your hand or in the chat or the Q&A. Oh, I've already got a question. Cool. This is Roberta directly to Soren. Hi, everyone. So we'll
Hi,
say
everyone.
hi back, Roberta. We are also being recorded, so that everybody knows, and the recording will be up on YouTube directly after the webinar is over. We'll go for about an hour. So without further ado, let me introduce Erinrose Sullivan, who's a lady from Massachusetts, who is based in Switzerland now, and is an expert for many years in the gaming industry and also the communication part of things and the creativity and how to work in the gaming field and the design and working with teams of designers. Then we have Sorenson, who's a complete artist, composer, musician, songwriter, whatever, with like an extraordinary experience writing for other people, now singing for himself at last. We're lucky to have your voice now on air on a regular basis, and also based in Geneva. And then we have Devy. Devy is a filmmaker, he's a writer, he's a journalist, he's an artist, and also the founder of the AI Film Festival, which has been going wild all of last year, with different editions in Cannes, in Paris, in Dubai, you tell us about it later, and I know in Venice as well. So welcome, everybody. And maybe we'll get fresh news from Devy about the Cannes Film Festival, which just ended. So maybe tell us a little bit about that, and how is AI being perceived in the film industry right now as we speak?
Well, it's a huge topic. First of all, as we mentioned it when we were at the United Nations together, my dear Sixtine and Soren, the Oscars organization has allowed recently the possibility to make a submission of movies which have been enhanced by AI. So that's now a world premiere that this kind of traditional cinema is able to accept. So there is this kind of movie. So there is already, I would say, a progression in terms of mentality into the field of cinema. And this is now reconsidering the other festival with this possible option to make like a digression from the traditional cinema to this new kind of new tech cinema. And that feels super good because now, as the AI Film Awards, and the first time I have competed last year in Cannes to this emerging ceremony, I won 2 awards there. And then the founder, Dr. Jacques Durand, asked me to join the team as a professional of the movie business. And then I accepted and I became the artistic director and not the founder of the AI Film Awards. And now we are receiving every month. It has really increased during this year. We're receiving every month around 150 movies. So it started with 50 and now we are at 150. So there is a huge progression of artists. And
And are
who are using AI.
filmmakers using it as to build a storyboard, like to gain time, or are they really making a fully fledged movies?
We have absolutely everything. We have 5 categories in our competition concerning short movies, long movies, documentary, animation movie, and as well a video clip. In those 5 fields that I had to open the field for new sections and new kind of art. And we have as well a trophy for a special kind of movies because we see many different audiovisual concepts that could not include only the cinema, but as well advertisement, of course, and video clip for the music industry, and any kind of special project, even, of course, cinéma d'auteur. Um, uh, and in fact, AI is opening the field of creativity so much that we have many different kind of project, and we learn about it when we receive it uh, in our competition. And we see, of course, that the level has really rise up those last months, especially. We have more and more very a lot of very good projects, and we have been lucky enough to give some awards to the best ones during the ceremony of Cannes Film Festival, where we did an event where it was absolutely full of professionals. So that is the witness that there is a lot of interest about AI already. To give you a slight insight about it, 6 months ago, in terms of editing room into the movie industry, nobody had yet the artificial intelligence applications and the options. And now, 6 months later, everybody has AI in terms of editing a movie.
Yeah.
So it has really arrived now, technically, and everybody is starting to use it. And probably I have been hearing some few words from an advisor to politicians in France, whose name is Jacques Attali, and he was saying, unfortunately, that probably this would impact so much the industry that in 3 years anybody would be able, and probably use my example, um, anybody would be able to use a smartphone to make an excellent movie, which could probably be as good as a blockbuster. So that's the point. Of course, it's going to change totally this industry. But as usually, there will be. We always need a human beside, to be the chief orchestra
Yeah.
of all the applications you need to make a movie. So, I mean, it will transform this industry in some ways, and that's the point with it.
As you say, it's AI, artificial intelligence assisted or enhanced, but as you know, the vision, the creativity, and the need for the human input to start with, to work with, and to probably edit at the end is still very necessary, wouldn't you say?
Yes, yes, of course. I think we have 3 years before it is totally transformed. So we still have 3 years of, to discover some new way of making a connection in between the old cinema and the new one. But at least me, who is really sensitive about the real game of an actor, how the cinema was made traditionally before, um, you know, to find as much as we can feel it in an old movie, to find a lot of emotions. It's still with real actors that you can make that. You
Yeah.
can bend it in a way to give emotions when it's purely AI. But until now, the best characters are humans, of course. But
So
it's really
that
helpful for the background, the landscape, and the treatment of the picture and the special effects and etc.
It leads me, thanks, Devy. It leads me to the next question, which I'll put to Erinrose as we were talking before we went live. In the gaming industry, you're also working in teams and using AI for creativity, but at the end of the day, you're still working with human teams, right?
Yeah, I think in the space of gaming, gaming is always on the forefront of technology, and always taking on trying out new things, and it's no different with AI. That said, there's certain areas within it. I would say there's like a first resistance. I would actually say in many ways the big studios, and I'm not sure if you're seeing that as well, like in film, but they almost are having more difficulties. Like we have these AAA studios for games where you have huge teams, and having that agility, and kind of taking these in a way, and actually what that might mean to team sizes versus the really small studios. They have had a uptick with like 88, like this is back in like what, January, 88% of small studios, indie studios were engaging with AI in one way or another, which was much higher than your sort of more A size studio, because they have that agility, because that gives them that quick advantage, and they can, be storyboarding, they can be brainstorming with these tools, and equally they can enrich their stories in ways that they might not have been able to do previously with NPCs. Like with role-playing games are very story-driven games that which also are quite costly, but with the ability to, enhanced by AI, that allows game makers to take generative AI for NPC characters, non-playable characters, to enrich stories, and the like. There's been a lot of, there's obviously concern on the art side of things, and you see a little bit less of an uptick from that space and more of a concern. And sometimes we're seeing it, and I don't know if you're seeing it in spaces in film, but sort of a younger generation coming into like these bigger organizations feel threatened. Like I would say Gen Zs are feeling threatened by this if they're kind of animators or designers. But from the top and even from the middle in these organizations, it's trying to look at it to kind of give you a superpower to eliminate the kind of tedious work and to really focus on what brings the value to what you're doing. And I think you're just seeing more and more of that. So it's happening in sound, it's happening in art, it's even happening in workflows. And from a broader perspective, it's happening even in our development and coding. So it's really impacting every step, and then even the marketing side of things. So it's to turn away from it, like it's a snowball effect, and it's happening in each space. But it's the ability to engage with that. The creative sense, it doesn't come from that. Like everyone says, oh, like to the point of what Giacatelli was saying, in like 3 years, anybody could make a film. You have to have a creative sense. Like the movie, remember Tangerine came out in 2015 and did it on an iPhone. Like that was like unheard of, doing something like that. But it's having the creative idea. You give anybody tools. You look in sort of any game where it's like creation building games, 95% want to experience someone else's creation. It's like that 5% has the ability to create something that's going to awe, inspire, and delight. So as much as we might think we're all auteurs and creators, it might be an idea for us, and the ability to have the tools. We all have a piece of white paper, but the ability to actually realize something is something else.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Erinrose. I always say people who, you put a camera or an iPhone in their hands, and it doesn't make them good photographers. I mean, you still need the angle and the vision and the light and whatever you want to do. I have another question. Would you say, Erinrose, that that it's geographical as well? Because in the games we know about the Japanese and the mangas and all that. Do you think it's across the board? Like there's the Americans with more, maybe more realistic drawings than the mangas. There's those styles which are very geographic, I find, don't you think?
There is, but what you're having with AI is that you can inform your tools with your styles.
Mhm.
So you like Hugging Face, so you can create your sort of world garden of your AI to say, here's all my work, here's all our studio's work. We want everything to be informed with this style, look, and feel.
Yeah.
So and that allows, that sort of sense of proprietary and proprietary
Yeah.
ownership there. And you're seeing more of that. I think it was about a year and a half ago, Samsung was just like willy-nilly using ChatGPT and like letting out all internal information. So, like there was a very quick and steep learning that happened with all organizations to kind of have their own AI, behind a walled garden to
That's right,
allow
because you
for.
can train it, right?
Exactly.
There's machine learning, and so you can
Exactly.
train it. Um, Sorry, I'll come to that with the training part of things. That you've come out with this 20 version song, which is the one song composed by you and initially sung by you or interpreted by you as well. And then you taught the AI how you wanted it in the different styles, right?
Absolutely, and it was brought to me like on a silver golden plate by my former radio mate, Phil Munveler. He's a AI teacher, and he also published a book about AI online, using AI to write his book. But he has great ideas himself, of course. So yeah, this idea was he introduced the idea to me by saying, "Okay, nobody's forced to like your song, but." Um, your interpretation. So we can also say nobody has to love Michael Jackson. You have more chances to find people liking Michael Jackson. But I also always considered my songs like my babies, more important than I am. So the idea was spoke to me. It was smart. Like, okay, you're the creator, but what is going to survive you and all of us is your creation. So why not give your song 19 more chances to exist? So in total, with my version, it's 20 version. So he called it 20 version song. And so he's a professional prompter because, as you know, the prompt is a more important thing. I like the metaphor. I like extreme metaphors, but like I always say, if you put shit in an oven and you cook it, it's going to come out of cooked shit. It's nothing else. So it is important to be very efficient at first when you start the whole thing. So again, there's a human being behind the prompting. So he was like, "Are you ready for this?" Because it was the first time I heard of him in decades. I said, "Yes, send me an example." And when I heard the first example, I was like so blown away. I mean, it had the flamenco version, the Russian choir version, and finally the jazz version, like you're in New York with this black singer, female singer singing. So it was so real that I was actually flipping out, like it just happened with Google, and VO3, where you can actually now create movies with sound, and Sora video generator. That is completely crazy. And I have this actor friend in Los Angeles, where I have also family and friends. Um, who said we're gonna be dispossessed from the essence of everything in the creativity field, which is the emotions, and everything that humankind invented. I mean, most of the time came from accidents and mistakes. How is AI going to commit mistakes? So it was quite interesting because he was challenging me, knowing that we would have this discussion today, saying it's crap. I'm going to fight against AI, and I was all of a sudden doubting about today. I was like, I'm going to be one more criminal, talking about AI. And we should one day have someone on board who's questioning all that, because I'm a passionate person. And as you know, Sixtine, when we were doing conferences together and also at the UN, my metaphor that was actually, I discovered it yesterday, used by Herbie Hancock like 40 years ago. So I thought I was the first one, but you're never the first one on this planet. Of course not. And my example was like, he was speaking about an axe. I was saying a knife can be used to cut bread or meat, but you can also kill your neighbor. So what counts is who is holding the knife and what is your intention when you start your day. Are you somehow somewhat a good or a bad person? That is the most important thing. Who is actually using um, something? And that was the case in the humankind history. So we are all passionate. When you hear Devy, myself, and all of us, we are passionate about what we're doing. So this 20 version song project, the more I was receiving um, prompted songs by Phil, who actually prompted 400 versions and sent me maybe 100, and we had to choose 20. 20 was a symbolic number because Dorian Gray is supposed to be something like 20 years old in Oscar novel, the picture of Dorian Gray, and also it's a sort of limit for people to listening to a song. So the original thing, um, we always had covers of songs, we had collaborations, we had remixes, but I think we were the first ones to produce 20 times the same song. And when you listen to the songs like in a row on 20version.song.com, you're actually never bored. I mean, all of the people who heard the project, not only the friends but other people, the only thing that becomes a little bit boring is the lyrics. Like it's always the same lyrics but
Mhm.
they're actually used in a different way. Depends on what version you're listening to, but the melody is the same. Everything, I mean, the melody sometimes is changed by AI. So, but but in a way, you're never bored. That's what is
Could you
amazing. So,
just pop a
yeah.
question here? Could you envisage having AI translate your lyrics?
Um, it exists. I didn't do it, but
Mm,
today you have programs who do that in real time with text and voice.
mhm.
So of course it could be made as well for people who don't understand English. But my purpose with music was always creating music like I learned it, thanks to my late grandmother. What is important, and actually the example in with covers when songs were covered throughout the history, it was always because of the power of the melody. That is what connects all the different nations on the planet and races and whatever.
And was that your experience with the Eurovision? Because you wrote for interpreters for the Eurovision, and you often told me that the important thing was the composers and the lyrics, and not so much the interpreters.
For sure, the only people who are thinking the other way around, because I lived there as well, and there are our like neighbors is France. They also credit songs the other way around. First of all, the writer and then the composer. Um, it's wrong. Why? Because the nature decided other way. Otherwise, if when you're born, before you understand someone, it takes a few years. So the music and the sensations and the feeling comes before the fact of speaking. And to understand a song, you need to know how to speak. You need to put things in context, and also an intellectual background. And the nature decided it this way. First of all, you understand emotions and sounds that you can actually start to feel in your mother's belly. And there's a technique actually called aptonomy, where you can communicate with the fetus, directly when the baby is still in the mother's belly. So
Womb.
so
Mm.
uh, of course it comes first, and it was also shown in the history of songs covers. When a song is covered, it's always because of it's always because of the power of the melody. And yes, the Eurovision was a good example because back then when I did it, it was still sticking to the rules, having a song that represents your country, your culture, and your language. So everyone was singing like in Swedish, Turkish, whatever. That was quite boring for all the other countries. So the song had to be even more powerful in terms of the melody. There were exceptions like ABBA because English is the second Swedish national language. I think that's why they could bypass all the
Oh,
laws.
I didn't know that.
And I have to remember everyone that Eurovision is a Swiss invention. So that is really important. We can be proud of that. But before it became a political and geopolitical, because there are other countries that are not European in the Eurovision for some obscure reasons. But a few years ago, they changed the rules. Now everybody can sing in English. Um, so you can be okay or not with it. But again, what will be the most powerful thing if I go now to Africa in a village, and it was shown in a very famous French show, you had an artist called Zazie, who's
Mm.
not especially the biggest French voice, but she's a powerful melody maker. And she was in that village in a tree with the chief of the village and a few people from that village, and they were communicating with translators. But at some point, she was supposed to sing a song of hers, so that's what she did. And the chief of that village, he started to cry, but he didn't understand
A
a
word.
word of what she was singing. But that was the pure example of the power of the melody. So the 20 version song, Eurovision, you can try to say whatever you want in a song, but a little kid who is not even speaking will be able to feel a song, the vibrations of the
That will
hertz.
be created with AI. I'm just going to remind people that they can ask questions. I'm looking at our audience, whom I wish to bid a warm welcome, and we've got quite a few artists here using AI. So hi Anna, hi Leela, hi Dina. Dina is a very clever draftsman who's still using pen and ink and paper. So welcome to everybody. We've also got Professor Sarah there, Jamila, hello, and a few others that are following us. So please, guys, ask some questions. If you've got any, make comments. More than happy to answer and put them through to our people, to our speakers, I mean.
16.
Yeah.
I just wanted sort of like one of the questions, if we all seem positive in the space of AI. One thing, and to the point of Soren, we talk about like being able to prompt, like the term being a prompt jockey, so in so many of these spaces, you become this prompt jockey. And I do wonder for people that it starts to limit our ability to express something through words. Yes, the result will be something, but if you were used to, like you're saying, someone who's online, pen and paper, to be able to a feeling, you had to then go through the word for that to be produced. It's a really different process, and I think that's something. And then it requires the skill there and to be able to express through words something that you may have expressed differently. I think is also a new skill set that's required.
Mhm.
And again, working with people and seeing just even results of art through that. Oh, got to try again. So like, okay, oh no, I need this to come out. Okay. And so it becomes the constant experimentation in that front, but it's sort of like this experimentation. Oh, I got to put this word. Okay, change it this way. So it's really being able to express verbally in a way you might have not had to have done, which I don't know, it creates a strange type of friction.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I'm just wondering, it's absolutely right that it has to go through words, but now you can also upload images, I guess. But I was wondering, whether it's important to artists, songwriters, or even gamers for that matter, that a lot of people are saying it needs to be labeled as AI assisted or whatever. And I'm thinking now, for example, in photography, when it was silver plate, and then it went to digital and Photoshop and all that. You never wrote at the end of a photograph, this has been Photoshopped. Whereas now, like the governance is sort of saying it has to say that it was translated by DeepL or that it was, AI enhanced in some way. What do you think about that? Is that important? Once an artist starts creating or a gamer starts developing, you don't need to, it's still him or her.
Yeah, I look on the front, like on the other side of that, we've had rules and regulations around game trailers. And so if it's in-game footage versus a trailer that's been created through sort of visual capture otherwise. So that's always been a very key thing in gaming in trailers specifically, like this is in-game, this is real game footage versus this is sort of an animation. Um, eh, it's it's a tool that they're using, so I think that would be a really difficult I think this the understanding will be across the board that everything is going to be AI enhanced. If you look
Yeah.
at, again, 88% of indie studios are using AI in one capacity or another, the assumption has to be that everything's is sort of AI informed, AI enhanced.
Yeah. We have a question here from Dina, and that's probably again to you or to Devy. It says, is there an AI program to animate drawings? I would seriously be interested to animate some of my drawings in this way and collaborate to achieve this. Well, there is, huh? I mean, it's quite easy to find a software that will animate your drawings these days.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. Do you hear me, guys?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, yes.
Yes, absolutely. It's probably one of the first way of getting in touch with AI. Is about drawing something and like you making a sketch of any kind of idea that you have. And some applications are, I'm not going to mention them to make a hidden ad for anyone. But yes, most of the time it's absolutely one of the options of the application to be able to sketch from the beginning and to have then a perfect drawing made by AI. And then another option will animate this image, this picture into and transform it into a movie. So, well, it's the basic, it's the base. To make a movie now, you need to create first your picture and then animate them, or you can go directly into video mode, but you have less control on the final results of
Okay,
video.
that's interesting. That's a good tip. We have another question from Anna. Thank you for being interactive. She says, any tips on becoming a professional prompter? So I would say tutorials. I mean,
Yeah, there's loads of stuff out there.
Yeah.
Become a prompt jockey. Just really do some tutorials and start just messing around, you know, start playing with it. Take time for that. I think anything, have a curious mindset. In any type of field now, you have to be curious, you have to engage, you have to be flexible and keep learning. So it's like any field, keep learning, learn the new tools.
And I think we will do that. And that's one of the good things, I guess, about the internet is that there are tutorials out there, and even on YouTube or TikTok. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of visitors of people who share their experience. Now, of course, then you have to pick and choose, the style that you want and the type of tutorials. But yeah, it's I mean, that's how I've learned the little bit I know.
As well, there is for example, there's an initiative we've been working with them, and some of them has won a prize in our competition of the AI Film Awards. There is a special association in France that is called Prompt Club, and their goal is to be better at creating prompts, of course, and to show you the example and the results of how you can make it. So that's the point. As well, I would say I would add a little something, in my opinion. When you had already, when you are a child, most of the time to get to the professional path at the end, you choose mainly if you're more someone who likes letters and words, and the other side is I'm more into mathematics and science and stuff like that. So there was already since the beginning of our teachings to all two kind of ways. Are you more into letters or are you more into numbers?
Yeah.
And, the people who are into letters, so more oriented to languages and stuff like that, and poetry, even poetry or writings, are probably today more advantaged than people who are into techniques and science, because they are more able to describe what they want to see, basically.
Yeah.
But after, with the prompt, they're organized how to say it, in which kind of order. You have to put the prompt to get your final picture. So I think AI basically is really helping the people who had a lot of ideas, who are very, very creative, who had a natural way of expressing themselves, but they didn't know how they could use the technique to make a movie or anything else. So that really helps creativity in that sense, in this way.
I have another question to all three of you about the economics of this whole new tool. How do you feel like, I guess there's investors in games, Erinrose, and there's obviously investors or producers in the film industry and in the music industry. Do you think that the traditional way of choosing which project you're going to finance or you want to produce as a now a business from a business angle, do you think these guys will be encouraged with AI rather, because time saving, because of obviously not having to pay actors or whole philharmonic orchestras or whatever? Does that play a role in the decision making for producers?
Yeah, I think from a publisher perspective for games, that's having an impact. You're looking for studios that are lean and efficient because gaming is a highly risky field. 95% of games fail. So if you're looking for ways to ensure a type of mitigating a risk that the team is talented, it's a good solid team, but they're actually reinforced by engaging with AI tools effectively.
Yeah, okay. What about in the music industry, Soren? Do producers still sort of back up their artists, and will they prefer to have a 20 version song, one artist, and then computer generated products?
Since I'm an independent artist, I can't answer this question because indeed, AI helps me to emancipate myself even more from all these dictators. Um, but it started way before AI, when music became volatile like 25 years ago with Napster. There was the good and the bad, again, the yin and the yang and all that. So our independent artists like me were so happy because we could finally, with MySpace and all these platforms, create our own label. And then that's always the same thing. It's like with crypto. Crypto is supposed to be a substitute to banks, and now banks have their own crypto. So independent labels became bigger, and then they became big labels, and they start to adopt the same attitude than the labels we were actually all fighting with this new technology. So it's a constant battle between something new that helps the independent artists. We are probably 99% of the artist population to produce everything ourselves. So it's a paradox because we can fear modern things and AI. It helped me to create, but at the same time, I was not hiring anyone to play things I cannot play, which is good for my wallet and the means I have to do music. But then I have my best friend actually, who's my bass player. Actually, I won't name him, but he's a very nice and talented person. But when I started to really use AI a year ago, we said, okay, I won't play on any of your songs where you used AI. So that
Okay,
was
so he had a
so
set mindset.
yeah, he was like, okay. And so I freeze for a moment, and then because I'm always looking for an answer, uh, I try to be fast as usual in my head. What is the best answer to that? So I was trying to, again, using metaphors, which is a good thing between human beings, for someone else to understand something. I was raised like that. So I said, so what's the difference with putting effects on a voice back then, when you were using a delay, or reverb, or when you're recording in a studio, you're recording layers, and sometimes a drummer, because it's my first instrument, or a singer, or anyone who's recording anything with a computer now, but back then with tapes, you do it like many times, and then you edit until you have the best vocal line or drum line. So I was like, what's the difference? But he was still saying that there's a lack of humanity, like my actor friend in Los Angeles. And it was a battle between him and myself. But most of all between myself and myself, because he was right, he was wrong, we were right, we were wrong, and we were like, and we're still in the middle of something huge that is really shifting on this planet. And I
Very
said,
true.
thank you. You're also helping me to understand how I'm going to approach AI. I don't want to be the bad person in that game. But yes, I was looking for a female singer. No, so I had the contact with a young female singer for one of my songs, and most of the time I was actually singing the songs for other people to show them, this is the line I would like you to sing. And this time I needed to do it in Spanish, and a female voice was better to show this female
Oh, we've
singer.
lost you.
Okay, am I still
We'll
here?
come back to you. We're having
No,
okay.
oh,
We
Am
just
I
had a bit
back?
of a technical. Yeah, you're back.
Okay, so I was telling my because my friend was supposed to play on the song I wanted to introduce to this young singer who was supposed to sing in Spanish. So I said to my friend, what am I doing here now as an independent producer who cannot produce financially, because producing is a word that in French is always understood as money, but
Mhm,
in English you have executive producers who are
mhm,
dealing with the
mhm.
money, and art producers who are more on the art side. So I said, okay, what do you suggest? Now I need a female voice to introduce the song. I cannot pay anyone for that. I know Spanish quite okay, but I want to do great lyrics. So we were arguing essentially about this matter, and it's still something that we talked about at the UN. And I guess Debbie, yourself, and myself are so proud having done that a month ago during this huge symposium about AI. And
Yeah.
the question was collectively, um, is it a huge danger? But actually, we did this conference before that, and the title was amazing. Is AI going to save humanity? Remember, we did
Yes.
that in Geneva. So this is a very provoking and provocative title. And I didn't say it to my friend, but my friend would have had a heart attack because he thinks that it's gonna kill human being and the humankind. So yeah,
Well,
we're in the middle of these two questions, like the good and the bad. It's actually Star Wars.
may the fourth be with you.
Yeah.
But before we get to Devi, I agree also with Erinrose, and I experienced or witnessed something quite interesting. We've just did a big talk with a communication agency here in Geneva, and the guy was interviewing various young people, and the various CVs were under his nose. And there's one young man who didn't mention AI, and he said, what there's something missing in your CV. And the young man said, what? And he said, the mention of AI. And he said, yeah, I don't like AI. And he said, why? For ethical reasons or because you've been too lazy to learn it? And he said, 3 years ago, I told my whole staff, and it's an agency of about 100 people here. And he said, I told my staff to go back and look at how AI could enhance our work. And 3 years down the track, they're all using AI now. So I think, as Erinrose says, it's a tool and it will help. And also, but you need to control it. And as our CEO, Carlos Moreira, always says, at the end of the day, we need to protect, well, the humans need to stay in control. And I think we will. There's no questions about that. I mean, I often speak we just did 3 days of post-quantum tech days, and there was all these geeks there, and I'm far from a geek. I'm really from the traditional art world, and they also, they always come back and say, well, it's a bit complicated to explain. And my response to that, to anyone who says that to me, is always try me. Nobody's more clever than anybody else, and it's not because you're a geek in IT that you're above being able to explain it. And I think that's where what's lacking is the amount of education or raising awareness about the tool. That's all that's missing, really. Would
um,
you? Yeah, keep going, Erin.
well, it was just Carnegie Mellon did a study last month that was released, where they had a fake company where they had AI agents in this fake company, and just to sort of see what would happen. And it was quite a mess, actually. One created it, self-named itself the project lead, and was sending off tasks to everybody else. Other agents weren't listening. The Slacks were a mess. They were talking past each other. There was, hoarding of information. So it was really quite fascinating. Again, these sort of like unguided space it's important to kind of understand that I see it as sort of like an amplifier as opposed to a replacer.
Yeah, it needs a structure, definitely needs it. But that's a very cool experiment. Thanks for sharing that. Devy, how are you talking about economics in the film industry? Is it a lifesaver?
Totally. I'm super happy that AI came here on the market now for many reasons, and especially economical reason. Why? Because before, me as a director, when I was trying to find funds for my project, I am into a special field because I'm trying to defend some causes. And for this kind of movie in the business, let's say that there is almost 0 movie per year with dealing with spirituality or important topics that would help humanity to change their insight about philosophy or wisdom and etc. And so I was always struggling maximum to find funds to create my stories, as my spiritual stories. And now the cost has so much decreased with the help of AI that before, when you were probably, we could say, divided by 10 minimum, it can be even more. In terms
so that's how you created Three Gates of Wisdom, right?
Exactly. I made it in a way, like the most easiest way, just with a smartphone, to open the possibility and the capacity to young people and beginners to say, well, I have an idea. I want to make a movie. I don't have all the money to make a real cinematographic production. I just have my phone. Well, that's enough. You can make something and you can make it great and bring a message that is important for you to the humanity through this medium. So, of course, it's so much better for an individual that never finds the foundings for good topics. I will take an example for about one of my friends, Paulo Coelho, who have been very involved too for the making of a movie from his bestseller, international bestseller, which is called The Alchemist, which is an important story for me. At the beginning, when he sold, so he wrote the book, and at the beginning he sold the rights in Brazil, and he started, for the first year, he started to sell 4,000 books only. And now, 40 years later, we are at 150 million copies sold.
In so many languages, right? It's a great book.
Languages. Yeah. I mean, it has, it's probably when you buy a book, someone is reading it. There is 3 or 4 people reading it as well, because you buy it once and then you give it to a friend, and then this friend has read it and you give it to another one, or you sell the books, or etc. So with this kind of medium, there was a kind of communication between the people who are interested by this kind of culture. And by the way, we couldn't imagine, and it's a spiritual story that nobody was interested in at the beginning, So it started slowly and could increase. And we will probably have the same kind of phenomenon for all those stories made into movies in the few years, because we can already see that the creativity is totally different with AI movies than what we see currently on the main market.
It's true. As a jury of one of the AI film festivals, I saw that there was a lot of subjects and subject matters that could be treated through AI that actors probably wouldn't have done. I'm just going to cut you a little bit short because we have 10 minutes left. I'd like to thank everyone, and I always finish off by asking every panelist to tell us what you would like to say to the next generation, not Gen Z, but the next ones that are coming on, and what advice, if advice you want to give. And I think one of them, Dina was also commenting in the Q&A that raising awareness and education was very important. Obviously, that's true. And so that's what I would say, go on those tutorials. The people who know how to use it, share the knowledge, so that everyone can be involved. Erinrose, what would you say to your kids?
Um, Honestly, I'll sound like a countercurrent here. The technology is the technology, and they'll be taking that on in any way possible. I think what's really important is to sort of, again, the richness of history, culture, and art. Going back, I mean, and the richness, like even right now, what's happening in the gaming space, like one game that has been huge coming out of China is Black Myth Wukong, because it is about Chinese history, and the richness of Chinese history really hasn't played itself out in any way, shape, or form in gaming. And this has created something really credible and a desire to go back into all of our histories and beyond the sort of like fantastical, like, yes, the things of World of Warcraft and things like that. But I'm always excited and working in the art and gaming space of like, my God, our human history is so much richer. So encouraging, learning, going back, and the tools come, they comes all around us, but keeping minds fresh and engaging with history in any way, shape, or form. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I'm an art historian, but at the end of the day, it's true that our history is super important, and we need to not forget it.
And it's amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing. Like, I mean,
yeah.
there's so much to learn. Like, unfortunately, everything seems to only go back 50 years, but I mean, go back to Mesopotamia, the Carthagins. Like, I get sad when people want to go on tours to see where like Star Wars was filmed. I'm like, do you know that was where the Carthagins were? Like, that's so much more interesting. But okay, if that's the opening, is that's the aperture, okay, but let's open that wider.
It'll take you
So
there, yeah. I was just going to add to that. I've worked a lot with the Australia Council on Aboriginal culture and how to perpetrate that to the younger generations rather than sniffing petrol and whatever else they do. And yeah, that goes right back to Gondwana land. We're talking about the creation of the rainbow serpent. So, 60,000 years ago. So yeah, absolutely, totally important. Couldn't support you more on that one. Soren, what would your advice be to your kids? Yeah.
Very short answer. Trust yourself. It's all about what you make of it.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And thank you for having me.
And Devy, your final word before I close off?
I mean, being an artist is something you've got inside of you. You can use any tools, so maybe AI or not, you need to express yourself. I think in the near future, we will have two kinds of artists. The people who traditionally use those traditional tools, who are very good artisan, artisan, in fact, and they will know how to make it from the beginning with the previous tools. And that's still relevant because in terms of quality, you can absolutely make, once you have a kind of master of it, you can absolutely make anything you want. Me as a composer too, I can make any kind of music. I think Soren too, because we have risen this level. But now with the AI tools, there will be people who doesn't know how to use traditional tools, and they will make what they can with the AI. And this will be like two different fields. It's like in the market, we are here, the traditional market, when you want to buy some food some fruits and vegetables. You can go to someone who's making growing this into his own farm in a little area, or you can buy those vegetables from a big farm that is very industrial. So there will be always these two kind of process functioning together. Maybe one or the other. Just follow your heart and be creative and do it.
That sounds good, absolutely. And I think it's again, it's a history thing. It's always been like that, and technology has always been. I always say, like, we just opened a physical space in Geneva, and I used Le Pont Neuf wrapped up by Christo. Well, it so happens that Le Pont Neuf was the first bridge in Paris, and that was also technologically a feat to cross the Seine. And but it did all sorts of things economically as well. It linked both sides of the river, the economical side, the merchant side, and the royalty side. And all of a sudden, merchants could go across very easily and sell their wares to richer people on the other side. It always it's the same as like in economy. You learn about when the vacuum cleaner arrived. It gave women freedom to go and work. It gave them more space. And as Erinrose was saying, the tedious work can be done by, in this case, a robot, which is, like a vacuum cleaner. But if we can use AI to do what we don't really need to do so that we can be creative elsewhere, I think that's a plus. I'd like to also announce the next webinar, which will be on June 26th. Again, same time, 3 to 4. And we'll be talking about how the art market has changed. It'll be just after Art Basel. So hopefully we'll get some interesting insights from that. I'd like to thank everybody. We've got 4 minutes left, so it's been an absolute pleasure. And I'd like to thank our audience as well. Thanks for being there. And we'll talk to you soon. And go and have a look on WISe.ART. The platform has been enhanced, not by AI. We put a lot of work into it. So it's a new platform which you need to explore. It's open, obviously, to collectors, but also to artists. And looking forward to seeing all your artwork out there. See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very
Bye,
much.
thank you.
Thank you so much.